Hey, thanks for joining us in this video. Today we're going to go over some of the announcements that Microsoft made at their Ignite Conference 2022. Joining me today is Cloud Solution Architect Suresh Paraj. Suresh, introduce yourself and please tell us somebody wouldn't know about you unless they knew you. In other words, they couldn't just look it up on the internet or like LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirby. Appreciate it. Hey, my name is Suresh Balraj, a cloud solution architect. Been in this role like about 7 years. So excited about sharing data and the Microsoft Ignite data announcement for 2022. If you search for me in the LinkedIn profile, you wouldn't find that I know martial arts. So I've been very successful at the national level,
Wow.
but long time ago when I was in college, not anymore, but excited.
That's amazing. That is so cool. I did not know that. You're a good friend to have, especially out there on the street. So thanks, Suresh.
Absolutely.
I'll think of something to share about myself next time. Okay, we are going to jump over to, if you didn't know already, I go over to the website that we're going to put into the links here, just so you can see the whole screen here. And this is the book of news. So this is where you can find out all the different announcements. I'm going to click on the table of contents here. And then what we're going to do is look at some of the items here under the subheading of Azure and Azure Data specifically. So let's kick off here and let me shrink this up. And I'm going to hand it over to Suresh to talk about this first one, the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform.
Hey, the first update that I have for you is about the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform, which is the unification of the databases, analytics, and the governance. With this Ignite announcement, there is a partner ecosystem that have been added to the databases, analytics, and data governance. So on the database, we have this MongoDB and Yugabyte, who are the leading, of course, MongoDB, most of the people know, is NoSQL, and this Yugabyte is NewSQL databases, right? So that with the data governance with Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform is being available, right? And the analytics side, so we are expanding the partner ecosystem with Informatica, Confluent, DBT, Fivetran, Click, and Stream with low code to no code data integration. So a lot of folks may be using this like from the first party, which is the Azure Data Factory or Synapse Pipeline. But these are the other options because the big data world, especially, you got to move the data from multiple disparate places into, one place, like could be a data lakehouse architecture, which is gaining momentum. So you need all these tools, and these are good integration tools. The data governance, we have the partner ecosystem growing. A Prophecy, there is a good tighter integration with Prophecy and Purview. Some of you may know already. Cluedin is another partner we are working with, and Delphix and OneCrest, right? So all of these are MDM partner ecosystem. So they're helping with the compliance and security solutions, both on hybrid and multi-cloud data estates. The next one is excited to talk about this with Cosmos DB and adding the distributed PostgreSQL support, right? So, traditionally the RDBMS and NoSQL exist in silos, right? So with this announcement, customers can work with the RDBMS, which is PostgreSQL, along with the Cosmos DB, right? So that is an exciting announcement. So I think Microsoft leveraged the hyperscale Citus engine that they acquired. So the whole thing is built on top of that Citus engine, and Azure Cosmos DB works with that, right? So that's something exciting. And it's like, kind of new paradigm from that perspective. And of course, on that, also we have the MongoDB with 16 megabyte support for the document size available as well. And then encryption at rest with the customer managed key. So, for everybody, the security is most important thing. And with the PostgreSQL encryption at rest with the customer managed keys available, so you can store those keys in your Azure Key Vault, and you start doing all the key rotation and key policies and key management whatnot. So that is something that's available with this announcement. And I think that's from my part.
Yeah.
Kirby, you want to
Thanks,
go for it?
Suresh. Yeah, I'll try and do these justice. Thanks, Suresh, for those updates. Yeah, Azure Database for MySQL. If you have not used that, it is my current really kind of hot product on Azure. I really like this one because it has so many nice features. It already had the ability to pick the I/O that you wanted. In some database, especially platform as a service offerings, you would pick an IO level based on the SKU or the tier of the offering, and that would be fixed. And you'd have to maybe bump that up to another tier in order to get better IO or different IO. This is flexible. It's always been flexible, but now this announcement is automatic. So literally, let's say you have maybe a heavy write database, a lot of writes to the logs, and you really don't want to over provision, right? Part of what we call the well-architected framework pillars, one of them is cost optimization. So you want to spend as little money as possible. Why throw money away? So with the automatic IOPS is a pretty slick feature where it'll scale the IOPS, the input outputs per second, based on your needs, and you only pay for what you use. So that's pretty slick. Database migration assessment for Oracle. Now, let me just digress here. If you haven't used Azure Data Studio, I'm going to bring it up here. It's a cross-platform development tool that's free, and it has a lot of these neat extensions in it. Like there was already an extension for migrating and assessing databases that were SQL based, but now there's one that will assess your Oracle database. Let's say you've got an Oracle database on-prem. It's going to assess that and tell you if it's ready to go to SQL in Azure in the cloud. It'll also, from what I've read, pick a SKU. In other words, try and right size your Oracle server. So that's a neat thing. Like I said, if you haven't used Azure Data Studio, that's a pretty neat thing. You can see all these different extensions that you can add. Database migration assessment for Oracle is just one of them. So that's pretty slick. Okay, Synapse, what have they done there for Synapse Analytics? They have added a new template for Microsoft 365 data, and I think this is very security specific. If we jump over here to Synapse, let me just show you how I got here. If I go into, sorry, this wasn't meant to be full-on demo, but since I'm here, if you say Browse Gallery in your pipelines that are like your extract, transform, load operations, and let's just search on 365. This is the new template that they announced as part of Ignite, and it pulls in your SharePoint 80 group information and allows you to create these pipelines based on the security data, and you can determine, what kind of sharing information people in your organization are sharing. So that's a pretty clever thing there. Now let me get to the right page here. After that, another thing in Synapse is our language support. Now that is pretty exciting too. If we're over here in Synapse, we've always had these Python, Scala, C#, Spark SQL. Now Spark R is available. So that is obviously venerated data science language R, and that is now available in Synapse. Okay, what else do we have going on? Azure Data Explorer. So if you have time series data, if you haven't looked at Azure Data Explorer, it's a great thing to look at, and it's an incredibly fast, scalable database engine, table-based database engine. Azure Data Explorer, they've introduced options for Amazon simple storage services, as well as Azure Synapse, link for Cosmos DB to Azure Data Explorer, as well as these other things here that you can read about. So If you haven't looked at Azure Data Explorer, great option to look at. Now I'm going to turn it over to Suresh because this feature is near and dear to his heart. And I'll turn it over to him to tell you why.
Yeah, there is a story that goes like one of the customer reached out to me and then they were interested in CDC. So at that time, in the past, Azure Data Factory did not have the CDC connector. So, with the help from a couple of folks that I was working with colleagues, so we created a product change request or new feature request to Microsoft. Voila, I mean, amazingly, it got approved for the fact that the customer was heavily leveraging Azure Data Factory. And now the story goes, we created initially the request for the Cosmos DB CDC connector. Now, it has grown to other data sources as well. And that you can see we have, the SAP change data connector. So this is amazing. So SAP is a very, crucial database or system, right? ERP system that many customers are using. So having the CDC feature is going to be of immense use for many of the customers. So I think so. You can read more details in this blog by clicking the Learn More.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something it came out of that initiative. Kind of indirectly I started. Right? So that's what I was excited to share about. And then purview data governance. So there is a improved root cause analysis and traceability with SQL dynamic lineage. And there is a fine-grained lineage for Power BI data sets. So earlier, we could see the connecting data source up to that extent, right? So if the data set is coming, say, from Synapse, so you can see that the origin data source is Synapse. So we can't go beyond that, like if it is coming from Azure SQL database or from data lake store, right? So with this one, you can go beyond that, right? So you can go beyond Synapse and you can go into Azure Data Lake storage or Azure SQL database, right? So you can go to the upstream data sources as well. Meta model is something that there is no good documentation yet. The documentation is not out there yet. So something you got to wait to get a hold of it. But this is exciting. Like, if you are coming from the business side, right, you can, kind of understand the assets. What are the different kind of assets that are related? So I think a lot of business folks would get a good value out of this on this meta models feature. In machine learning based classification, is sometimes the customers come back and talk to the solution architect, right? Hey, I'm sick and tired of updating the static rules, right, for doing the classification. Is there a kind of intuitive way, a dynamic way to do this classification? The answer is yes, you can, right? So using the machine learning based classification, you can do that. So to get more details, just click on the Learn More and you can go and take a look at that. So that ends the data updates on the Ignite announcement. Kirby, back to you.
That's amazing. Well, that is pretty exciting to do this update with you, Suresh. That's a pretty cool story about SAP and how you kind of had a part of that one and had a customer asking about it. But and I'm so interested to learn that you're a martial arts expert. So you're a good friend to have. I mean, you already were a good friend to have, but that's pretty cool. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you, Suresh. Bye-bye, everyone.